So, the self. You may have been wondering exactly what I did consider problems of the self that I'm now going to address that I perhaps only glazed over before, if barely even knew about. Well, this video I'm just going to explain and highlight some of the particular peculiarities about the self that certainly the neurocomputational approach only touches on, and may possibly at some point help us with certain answers if it's delivered in an appropriate framework, but are still some of the main concerns with the self, some of the really sort of analytic problems of the self, the epistemological problems, the metaphysical issues of the self. So where to begin? I suppose the whole mental realism, idealism, and fictionalism debate would come into this. Now, just to put it sort of as simply as I possibly can, because I'm not going to go into details about all the issues in this particular series. Mental realism is the idea that there are certain facts about a person's mental state. There are certain facts which are of the same type, they're the same type of facts as facts about the physical world. So, for example, it could be a fact that I have the belief that I am putting this video onto YouTube. Okay, that fact, that proposition is of the same type as the facts of the real sort of third-personal objective world that we can all verify. This is what a mental realist would hold. A mental fictionalist, however, which is a view that I've been adopting, would sort of sit on the wall between idealism and realism and say that we can't necessarily say that there are mental facts about someone. It's more the case that what we consider the mental facts about a particular person are narrated in some sort of narrative discourse, some social construction, or some confabulatory story that we attribute to ourselves and other people. Mental idealism, of course, would hold that, it would hold a very peculiar relation between facts of the internal and the external world. So the one of the main problems about this debate is we could argue that first-person facts are certainly different than third-person facts, or we might not necessarily argue that third-person facts are different, but we might argue that we access first-person facts in a different way. We might argue that we have an authority on our own mental states above what can be found out through means of the third person. If I have a sincere belief about my own mental state, perhaps the fact that I'm in pain, not only could you say that this fact about my mental state could not be proven wrong, one could assert that certain psychological attributions that I made were infallible, but one could also assert that the way I know someone else is in pain, for example, is through observation. It's through some empirical method, whereas when I know that I'm in pain, this does not seem to be the case at all, and this is a problem with the self that I'm going to address. So one could say that there is, again, a peculiar relation between the first person and knowledge about his mental states, if that's not begging the question too much. There are also other problems with the self that sort of tackle the very issues of truth and validity. Let me give an example of first-person reference, sort of the indexicality of first-person reference. Our nature of propositions is such that we don't allow propositions to vary in truth value in regards to a particular world. But there are certain beliefs that we have of ourselves that need the component, the particular indexical reference I. So when I say I am in pain and use that indexical reference I, of course I'm referring to a different fact than you are when you say that you use the same term and say I am in pain. When you say I am in pain, you refer to a different particular fact, and this jeopardizes our notions of truth and falsity, because you might think you'd be able to paraphrase away the belief I am in pain, for example, into something that didn't rely on the proposition varying in truth value in the same possible worlds. But this has yet to have been done. It plays a significant role in the explanation of a person's behavior and seems irreducible, which, you know, can severely, some interpretations can severely make us question our notions of truth and falsity themselves. So yeah, there's certain claims about the infallibility of first person expressions or first person beliefs about their own mental states. There are certain things that there are certain immunities to error that I cannot have about my own mental states. Namely, the fact that they are indeed my mental states. I cannot mistake the fact that I am happy with the fact that you are happy. I might be able to possibly mistake some hold. I might be able to mistake the particular mental state I am and be wrong about that, but I certainly wouldn't be wrong about who it was who was in that mental state. So, these are the problems with the first person that I believe a good understanding of them can shed a lot more light on areas of epistemology. For example, if we don't have a good theory of knowledge that includes how knowledge of the world and knowledge of ourselves is different, then we don't have a good theory of knowledge. We don't have a good theory of epistemology at all. If we have an ontology, now I'm not merely talking about the specifics of materialism or dualism, but if we don't have a good ontology which allows for this difference or accounts for this difference in the perceived asymmetry of knowledge of the external world and knowledge of ourselves, then we don't have a good ontology. So it's sort of these issues that I will come to address in my later series on videos. Introspection, self-ascription, self-knowledge, the peculiarity of indexical nature of beliefs that we have about ourselves, and so forth. So I'll see you in a couple of days, and I'll probably make a video on self-knowledge. So take care. Peace.